Oh, right out of the gate, guys, this is Jeff Hill. Jeff Hill Speaks on Instagram. Follow me. And we're going to be talking about sex today. Probably one of the topics on everybody's mind. The Freudian theory says everything always revolves around to sex. And I'm coming to you from Amsterdam, which is, I don't know if it's the sex capital, but there's plenty of it here, willfully speaking. Give you a quick overview of Amsterdam. Great city for walking and biking and all that good stuff. Everybody knows Amsterdam for it being the red light district. Two parts about that. Sex is legal. Red light, females. Blue light, males. Be on the lookout. Because as we walk through there, it was a little weird. Now, this video is not so much about let's go out and have sex as it is about the idea around sex. And I remember in college, if they wanted to get somebody's attention, the topic, the big headline was sex. And it was always fun. It would say sex. And everybody was like, sex? What is that about? And it was like, now that we got your attention, there is a meeting about whatever after that. It was a really good marketing scheme. So why not take the same page out of their book with this message? It's all about sex. But it's different. So I'm going to talk to you why I became celibate and why that's really important to me. Now, first of all, guys, I'm going to tell you, it's not always the easiest thing to do to take a vow of celibacy. Not always the easiest. So you have to have something that's deep in you, or your why has to be bigger than the idea of having sex. So I'm on this journey of celibacy. January the 15th will make an official year for me being celibate. Shout out to all the people who are on this journey. And again, man, it took a lot of prayer, a lot of dedication. I've done this before, and to be honest, I slipped up, you know. When I left corporate America and I went into full-time entrepreneurship, I had my come to Jesus conversation, and that was one of the things that was exposed in that conversation. The question was asked to me, what are you willing to give up for your success? And I remember it's clear as yesterday. When that question came out, my immediate response was sex. You got to give it up. Because again, not an nympho. However, I have a decent appetite, I would say. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I had control over my schedule, and that was a part of what I was trying to schedule in my week. That wasn't the case. And it's even funny even now when I talk to my friends about it. Some of them are just at awe. Like what do you mean? Like you did, why would you do that? So you couldn't trust yourself? And I'm like, honestly, no. I mean, I did not trust myself to have control over my schedule and that being the thing. So I knew for me, the only way to have control was to just cut it out. And I wanted to put that energy into my business. And what was crazy about this whole process is it wasn't until I read Think and Grow Rich that it really made sense to me. Because at first it was just one of those things where I just knew sex was an energy source in the way I experienced it. So it was like, all right, you know, don't give away that energy to the wrong sources. We've heard that kind of stuff, you know, protect your body's a temple, that kind of thing. And again, it's also we've always heard, but for whatever reason, I wasn't taking ownership of that when it came to sex. And it was just one of those things where it hit me and I was like, all right, brother, if you're going to do it, just, you know, go do it, stay prayed up and let that be the thing. And I was good. I was, you know, I wouldn't say actively promoting it, but I didn't have, you know, it would be something that I would make known early in the dating phase or the talking phase, whatever you want to call it. And I found it really funny how many girls were confused about that when the dude said he was celibate. And it was like a power shift because naturally, I'm not going to say men are more or highly more sexualized than women. You know, there's probably studies out there for that. I think, you know, at some point, you know, it's probably equally, maybe even women might think about it more than men. I don't know. There's comedians out here that say, you know, every 5 seconds a guy thinks about sex. Whatever. You know, I'm not going to get into the semantics of that, but I'm just saying from me, my personal point of view and perspective was I knew I wanted to have control over that as an act. And when I left corporate America and, you know, became an entrepreneur, that was the thing that I gave away. So I had to go where the strength is going to come from. And I went to the Bible, started praying a lot, started really trying to understand who I was. And there were times where, I'm like, oh, listen, it's kind of like, hey, guy, hey, need to go do my thing. But, I couldn't let myself go. I knew I had to exercise control and dominance over that. And I knew that power couldn't just come from me. So I had to seek, counsel. I had to seek God. I had to seek a higher power that was going to help me get through that level of energy. And I was going great. It was about a 3-year stint, if you will, before it just went by the wayside. There were a few slip-ups in there, but it's even funny. And to this day, I'll probably have it somewhere because I'm pretty sure I took a screenshot. But if you look at like my first year commission table, and you can see a consistent of production, then you see where there was a big like gap. Like, bro, like what was going on there? In the words of Usher, I was lost in some sauce. And, I joke about it now because it's funny, but it was one of those things where my focus was going elsewhere. There's a book there's a chapter in the book, Think and Grow Rich, called Sexual Transmutation. And it talks about sex being an energy form, an energy source. And if you don't learn how to harness that, it literally can take you over, whether you're male or female. And what it's talking about from a form of productivity, when it uses the word man, I'm going to, transpose male or female. So just man is in the general of mankind type thing. Okay. Most people don't become as successful until after age 40. Most of the time it's in their mid-50s because that level of libido has dropped, or their idea of wanting to keep chasing tails, so to speak, has dropped. And they take that energy and put it into their passion. And all of a sudden, that's what takes it from here to here. So when I made this determination, I think I was like, 26, 27? So I was way before my time. But again, my thought process, I have been working on building up a high level of thought energy. And I just knew there were things in my life that I was going to have to sacrifice. And that's where I learned more about the law of sacrifice, which is giving up something of a lower nature to achieve something of a higher nature. For me, sex, as good as it may have been, was a lower nature thing when it comes to that compared to my success. Because most people, if you read the chapter, and I suggest you to go do that, it talks about how sex, chasing women or whatever, especially for men, now I'm talking about men specifically, has been the absolute downfall of men, is the power of a woman. Jay-Z has a song talking about the power. I'm not going to get into it, but there's some truth to that. So if you think about some of the stories in the Bible and where some of these kings, these people of notable strength or power or accolades fail, it was their idea of, I need to get this woman. It was, I need to have that. Freudian theory talks about everything revolves around sex. I don't care what you're doing in the world, is to have more sex. And I remember when I first heard of the Freudian theory, I was like, like it's not that bad. And then as I started to learn more, I get it. But again, for a lot of us, it's that level of energy that has our focus elsewhere. So if we can harness that level of energy and don't use it for sex, Napoleon Hill talks about that's where you become your genius. And he talks about there's different forms of what's considered the genius. It's not just, oh, I'm Albert Einstein, I know everything. Sometimes it's discovering that next level of life and understanding what life really is that's going to get you to where you need to be. But again, if you're clouded by sex and that level of energy and that level of activity, sometimes you can't think properly because, again, your focus is elsewhere. So there's a lot of this in this talk about focus and energy and where you put the energy into. And I remember as I started to take this journey, I started to tell other people about the value of it. And even when it came to dating, some ladies were not receptive to it. And some of the things that I heard just kind of astonished me, right? You know, I literally had a lady tell me, like, what do you mean we can't have sex? Like, well, how are we supposed to date if we can't have sex? And it blew my mind. I'm looking at it like, what? That's the thing. Like, well, maybe you need to learn how to stimulate me outside of just sex energy. Because if you understand, guys, what really happens is sometimes we have sex, we give ourselves to that other person. Now we have a level of comparison. Nothing is ever good or bad to compare. So if you give that energy to the wrong source and they can't necessarily please you the way you want to be pleased, sometimes for us, that's a deal breaker. Well, what happens with love? Okay. And so for me, I started to kind of play around with that level of thought. Like, okay, if I really, really love this person, how important is that level of quality? And I'm trying not to get into the weeds of this. But for me personally, I valued knowing who that person was inside and out over than just the act of sex. Because I'd had just the act of sex before. I know what that feels like. And it didn't give me what I wanted. It gave me some temporary euphoria. Whew. Got this, got that energy out of the way, great day now I can relax or whatever. But it wasn't suiting me. So for me, I had to learn how to harness that level of energy. So again, when I say let's talk about sex, let's talk about the idea of truly not having sex. And even now, I've seen some people talk about it on YouTube, shout out to the guys who are out there being celibate, because I guess that's just a big misnomer, because typically you hear about the female saying, no, I want to wait till I get married. No. But again, as guys, I'm telling you guys, it's no shame in saying that. Like, I proudly say this to a lot of my friends. Sometimes they don't get it, but it's okay, Some of them, they get a little bit like, yo, brother, listen, I remember trying to do it, man. Hats off to you. I'm not there right now. And I'm not saying, well, you got to do it. I'm not necessarily trying to force that level of belief or whatever on them. I just tell them about my journey and what my goals are and why it was important to me. If they resonate with it and they decide, you know what, maybe I should probably stop, slow down or whatever, cool, that's up to them. And even with some of my, one of my frat brothers, some of my frat brothers that are married, it's different if you're married. We're different. I'm a single male coming from my standpoint. If you're married, I feel as part of your, covenant, your marital obligations, if you will, to make sure you guys are taking care of each other. That's just, what I believe. I believe that's a healthy part of a relationship. Definitely a healthy part of a marriage. Not so much a relationship. I mean, so much. When I say that, I mean only in terms of marriage. And again, I know I've made mistakes in the past. That's in the past. I can't dwell on what I did. And it was funny, man. Even that last year, being in one of my men's group, of course, that conversation came up. We was talking about Samson and his whole, deal. And again, how that went by the wayside. And I don't remember who said the initial phrase about, having a healthy relationship. And this guy came in, and he was one of the few, maybe only people in the room that had waited until he got married before he and his wife consummated. And he was like, well, honestly, man, I feel like you can't really have a healthy relationship if you are having sex. And it hit me, and I was like, man, that's deep. Because of the fact that I've already taken it there, I will never understand what that feels like. Never. Nothing is ever good or bad to compare. So what happens is the thief of comparison is, this person can't please me. They can't be right for me. And I remember even young, I'm like, before, if you buy a house, you do a walkthrough with it with a realtor and they tell you around. If you buy a house, you go test drive it. That should work the same way. I got to try before I buy it, kind of a thing. And even having conversations with other people, that was the thing. And for me, it got me nowhere. And I'm, some of you might have done that beforehand. And hey, listen, your world is what it is. Hats off to you. That's not my story. For some of you, that might not be your story. So what I want you to understand is that is a really severe, deep level of energy that you are giving away. And if you're one of those people who are highly sexed, slow it down, stop, try to take control over it. Take that energy, that thought energy more than anything, and put it into something more constructive other than releasing that level of energy. Try it. 3 months. Now you do a 30-day test. If you are 3 or 4 or 5 times a weeker or a dayer, I know some. especially if you're not married, just try it. Try it. Try it. When you get married, pick up the book Sex Experiment, go at it, have fun. That's your marital right to do so. But for my single people out there who are grinding, who want more out of life, take that journey. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for me. Just experience what life looks like if you cut that out. Because what you don't want to do is go into a relationship and that be the focal point. Because again, at the end of the day, if that's not happening, what do you really have? Is there substance left over? A lot of times it's not. And it's not always the most comfortable conversation to have with people. Trust me, I know this. I've had this conversation. And for me, a lot of times what I would do is I would bring it up early rather than later. Like maybe within the first date or two, I'd be like, listen, you seem like a really cool chick. You know, I'm enjoying this vibe, but I do want to let you know this. I'm celibate. And it was like, well, for how long? Like, you know, what, 90 days, 30 days? Like, how long are we waiting? And my answer was always like, I don't have any plans to have sex until I'm married. I slipped up. I did. There's a whole different talk called the slip. Oh, man, the slip is good. Oh, the slip is really good. And when I mean the slip, it's that thing that, oh, dang, got me off track. Now I'm down a whole different spiral and I didn't even realize it. And the slip comes from a meme that I saw. And it's something to the effect of, don't be concerned about the fall, be concerned about the slip. Because a lot of times we have these little slips where we get too comfortable thinking, oh, I got control over this. I can do this. I can handle this. And we allow ourselves to get too comfortable with something. Then it gets us, and it's the downfall. It's the downward spiral. For me, 6 year spiral from when I said, okay, I'm celibate, looking at that 3-year window where it was like, you know, there was a few slip ups in there, and then that 6-year window where that wasn't my focus on terms of being, not my full out focus. There were times where I'm like, all right, I need to stop. But I would go back to it. I mean, it's, you know, it can be a bit of an addiction, right? So it was going on in my mind, but I knew in my heart and my spirit I needed to gain control over that. And I knew it was something I couldn't do with myself. So I had to get around people who could promote that discipline. So, I mean, again, in my church, I separated from men's group, and that was one of the things I was openly sharing about because, again, I knew whatever I put into the group, I was going to get out. So if I put that level of saying, listen, guys, here's, man, something I've had a struggle with, brother, but pray for me. You know, we were reading books and that kind of thing. And I remember early in 2018, after I had made that new transition, that new, you know, discipline, that new decision, I was faced with that level of temptation. So you have to raise your level of awareness to understand that sometimes you're in a test, right? So I remember being in a situation with a girl that I was familiar with. We're hanging out, having fun, you know, a few drinks, we're dancing, that kind of thing. And then a specific thing happened, and I was like, I gotta go. Because if not, I know how this is going to end. And I remember running to the bathroom, splash water on my face, like, all right, brother, this is a test. Do not fail this. Most of us, because of the lack of discipline, would give in at that point. Most of us would be like, hey, might as well, I'm here. And it's really easy to do that. It's so easy. Because we're looking around, nobody's watching. People in my men's group aren't here. What is your self-image telling you? You're watching. Do you really have the ownership of what you say you want? Or are you just talking the talk but not walking the walk? And I remember just leaving. I'm like, all right, you know, your jacket is over here. This is this. You go straight to this stuff, get it, and leave. And I remember literally going back and then saying, okay, all right, it's time for me to leave. And the confused look on her face like, well, no, it's okay. You can just stay. Like, no, we had a few drinks. You should just stay here. I'm like, you know what? That's probably just best that I just go ahead and go home. You know, hey, I had fun. Great. You know, gotta go though. And like a day or two after that, we had the conversation. That's when I was like, listen, here's what's going on. Here's what happened. And again, it was like, I was wondering, okay, hey, I respect that. You know, I get it. If something happens to change your mind, give me a shout. But I respect that, right? Cool. And again, I remember in that moment, like, yo, just like the power of a mastermind. What more than, you know, two people come together, the mastermind is an energy force that's bigger than just you. It's a group of people. And I remember like, yo, I got to win this battle for my guys who are fighting this struggle with me. Because it wasn't just me that had that same thing. It was several of us in that group. So somebody might have had an addiction to pornography. Somebody might have just alcohol, drugs, whatever. Somebody might have been sex. For me, that was the sex thing. So, you know, and this is not like an AA thing. It was just like, listen, as Christians, man, we still struggle. We're not perfect people. Christianity is not necessarily about being perfect and that kind of thing. And I think that's the misconception. It's like, guys, we fight battles. But we understand that we're in the battle and we understand where our power comes from. That's what we got to lean against, right? So I remember being in that position saying, yo, listen, I got to win this for my guys, man. This is a good report if I can walk away from that, because the old Jeff, the 2017 Jeff would have been like, game time, being completely honest. But I knew that was not serving my purpose. So I had to walk away from that, had a conversation. We're still cool today, you know, that kind of thing. But again, we had to laugh about it. And she was like, hey, you know, I respect it, right? And again, you know, it's been a few times where people from the past come out of the woodworks. Hey, what's going on? Don't do it. Don't take that bait. Don't fall into it, guys. Literally focus on what you want. And again, 2018 was a year of clarity for me when I got even just that level of energy out of the way. I can focus on other things. Now, again, that's not the only distraction you're going to have in your life. For me, that was one. But now that I've kind of gotten that handle, now it's like, all right, cool. What are other levels of my life that I know I can take that same discipline in and put it into? Because again, it's like faith and fear, or faith and doubt. You either have faith or you have doubt. When you talk about a faith the size of a mustard seed, that's small, right? That's not a mountain of faith. It's so you either have all faith or you have all doubt. So for me, it's the same thing when it comes to this. It's like, all right, I either got that level of discipline, but if I can discipline something like that I know was quite enjoyable, and it was a part of my life, what else can I be disciplined in that's going to help me get to where I want to go? So now take that level of energy and understanding and start to put it in other things. So again, I tell you guys, this is Jeff Hill Speaks on Instagram. If you're one of those people who you have been struggling and trying to fight and get to that next level of success or even just peace in your life, if you're one of those people who are actively involved in it, do it. I mean, being at Instagram, like, look, I'm standing in a hostel and it's a co-ed hostel. You know, I did a smaller room so because I didn't want to share with other people. And I opened the door and it's just beautiful. Indonesian lady, like in there, like, oh my good gosh, gorgeous. And I'm like, brother, don't fail that test. Don't get savage. It's not worth it, because again, it's that level of, oh, I'm comfortable with it. You do that one little thing and then it's like, oh, okay, great. I got a handle on that. No big deal. I'm okay with this. And what happens is you start to get comfortable with the idea. And the more you get comfortable, the more you start to lose that battle to it. And all of a sudden you look up and you're riding that downward spiral. Okay. So again, read the chapter in Think and Grow Rich on sexual transmutation and meditate on it. Read it a few times if you're one of those people who, like I was, who that was the thing for you. And learn how to put that energy into something else that's going to give you what you want out of life. Give me a shout, send me a DM. And again, like, you know, if you need some words of encouragement or other things to read, just hit me up. Jeff Hill Speaks on Instagram. I'm out here. My goal is to share more content with you guys on the journey, the battles, the good, the bad, the ugly of what it took for me to become successful in the different avenues that I have been. Because the more of you that I can help get what you want, then I feel like I've done my duty as somebody who's gone through a journey and overcame some things. Not perfect by any means. I am not perfect. But because I've had some wins, I feel like I have some qualifications to share with you from my heart, things that I've done and been able to overcome. So I hope you guys have found some type of insight and help with this. Like it, share it, click it, tag your friends to it. Or, you know, if you're embarrassed about tagging your friends about it, you know, send it to them in a private message. But again, guys, I can't tell you how many times I've called a friend or somebody have accidentally called me and we just have a conversation and we talk about that. And it's like, yo, bro, listen, I've been thinking about that. It was what I needed. So again, if you're one of those people, this could be the universe saying, listen, you're on the right path. If you can get this thing under wraps, it's going to be what you want. Until then, peace out.